All right, so today we're diving into The Art of War.
By Sun Tzu.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, a lot of people think military strategy,
Right.
but we're going to see how it applies to everyday life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, the art of war, it's not really about brute force or anything.
Right.
It's more about strategy and really outsmarting your opponent.
Okay, so how does this ancient text apply to us, right now?
Well, Sun Tzu, he was all about preparation,
Hmm.
and one of his most famous quotes is, "Every battle is won before it is fought."
Mm.
So, think about that for a second.
Yeah.
How much better would your presentation go
Yeah?
if you really nailed the prep work? Or
Yeah.
imagine you have a really difficult conversation you've been putting off.
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be easier if you thought of different scenarios beforehand?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Like going into a meeting with a clear agenda
Right.
and anticipating, what questions might come up.
Exactly. And that all ties into another one of Sun Tzu's main ideas.
Okay. Which is knowing yourself and your enemy.
Oh, okay. That sounds intense.
Yeah.
What does that mean at outside of an actual battlefield?
So basically it means understanding the strengths and weaknesses
Oh.
of whoever or whatever you're facing.
Hmm.
So for example, let's say you're launching a new product.
Okay.
Your enemy in this case
Yeah.
could be like a competitor or even just the market itself.
Right. Right.
So by understanding their strengths and weaknesses
Okay.
as well as your own,
Yeah.
that's how you can create a winning strategy.
So it's about gathering intelligence and insight,
Exactly.
not necessarily engaging in actual conflict.
Yeah, exactly. And Sun Tzu, he said, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the results of 100 battles.
Whoa, that's powerful.
Yeah.
But, knowing yourself can be just as hard as figuring out your opponent.
Oh, absolutely. It requires real honesty about your strengths
Right.
and weaknesses.
Yeah. Have you ever gone into a situation completely unprepared?
Oh, yeah, all the time. And what went wrong?
Um, I mean, usually I just kind of flounder around. I'm
Yeah.
why didn't I think of this before?
Right. Could any of that have been avoided if you had understood yourself better
Probably. Yeah.
or the enemy?
Yeah. Definitely.
Wow, there's so much to think about already.
I know.
And we're just getting started.
We are. And this next point is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Sun Tzu, he emphasized the importance of flexibility.
Okay.
And he actually compared strategy to water.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
How does that relate to strategy?
Well, water adapts to the terrain.
Mm-hmm.
It always finds the path of least resistance.
Right.
It's not rigid or fixed.
Oh, what?
And similarly, Sun Tzu, he believed that we should be extremely subtle, even to the point of
Yeah.
formlessness when it comes to strategy.
So being willing to change course
Yeah.
when needed,
Exactly.
not getting stuck in a plan that's no longer working.
Right. Have you ever found yourself sticking to a plan, even when it was clear it wasn't working?
All the time.
Hmm.
I can be really stubborn sometimes.
Yeah.
And looking back, I can see how being more flexible would have,
Mm-hmm.
led to better outcomes.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah.
But just being aware of this tendency, I think, is the first step towards
Right.
becoming more adaptable, which is what Sun Tzu was talking about.
This is reminding me that the art of war isn't about winning at all costs.
Right.
It's more about being strategic and thoughtful in your approach.
Exactly. And that leads us to one of the most fascinating ideas
Okay.
in the art of war,
Okay.
which is winning without fighting.
Wait, what? How is that even possible?
Well, according to Sun Tzu, the ultimate goal is to achieve victory
Mm-hmm.
through things like negotiation, intelligence gathering, and
Correct.
strategic maneuvering.
So you're saying outsmart your opponent
Yeah,
rather than engaging in direct conflict.
exactly. And he has a great quote for this one, too.
Okay.
He said, "The greatest victory is that which requires no battle." So think about it. Have you ever had a disagreement with a colleague
Yeah.
at work or something?
Yeah.
Did you try to force your way through?
Mm-hmm.
Or did you try to find a solution that would benefit both of you?
Right.
That's Sun Tzu in action
That's a great example.
in everyday life.
Yeah.
Or think about a time when you avoided a potential problem altogether
Okay.
by anticipating it
Mm-hmm.
and taking steps to prevent it.
Right.
That's also winning without fighting.
These are really good examples. I'm realizing that the art of war can apply to
Yeah.
so many aspects of life, even
Yeah.
personal relationships.
Absolutely. It's all about being strategic and mindful
Yeah.
in your approach, no matter the situation.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this whole winning without fighting thing, it's
Mhm.
really interesting,
Yeah.
but it makes me wonder about deception.
Okay.
What role does that play in the art of war?
That's That's a great question.
Like, isn't that kind of unethical?
Right. Well, it's important to remember that Sun Tzu, he wrote this
Yeah.
in a very different time and context.
Right, course.
So, but even within his framework,
Yeah.
deception wasn't really about like outright lying
Okay.
or manipulation.
It's more about strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
That is.
It was about like using your strategy and intelligence to create like an advantage.
So not being dishonest,
Right.
just clever.
Exactly.
Right.
Think about it like a game of chess. You
Yeah.
don't tell your opponent like every move you're going to make. You're going
Right.
to make strategic choices to kind of like.
Outmaneuver them.
Exactly, yeah.
But there's got to be a fine line between being strategic
Yeah,
and being deceptive.
absolutely. And Sun Tzu himself, he actually emphasized that deception should be used wisely
Okay.
and sparingly,
So it's just one tool
Yeah.
in the toolbox.
Exactly.
This reminds me of, that Iraqi minister of information during the Iraq War.
Oh, yeah?
Who just kept saying, like, everything's fine.
Right.
When clearly things were like falling apart.
Yeah, that's a good example of how not to use deception. Like, it was so obvious and unconvincing
Yeah.
that it just had, like, the opposite effect.
It made him seem even less trustworthy.
Totally. Yeah, it's like a bad poker player.
Right.
Who keeps bluffing even when they have a terrible hand.
Everyone can see right through it.
Exactly. So, effective deception,
Yeah.
it requires subtlety
Okay.
and careful planning.
Speaking of planning,
Yes.
Sun Tzu also talked a lot about timing.
He did. He said, opportunities multiply as they are seized.
So it's not just about having a good plan.
Right.
It's about knowing when to act.
Exactly. Have you ever, like, hesitated
Oh, yeah.
and missed an opportunity?
All the time.
Like, maybe you were afraid to take a risk or you waited too long to make a decision?
Ugh. I can be so indecisive.
We all are sometimes, but Sun Tzu, he reminds us that timing is crucial.
Okay.
Like, we need to be aware of those opportunities.
Hmm.
When they, like, present themselves and then seize them. Yeah, boldly when the moment is right.
That makes me wonder about leadership.
Okay.
Like, what role does that play in the art of war?
You're right. You would need, like, a strong leader
Yeah.
to inspire people to, like, follow a strategy.
Especially a risky one.
Exactly. And Sun Tzu, he had a lot to say about leadership.
Okay.
He believed that a true leader leads by example,
Go
not
ahead.
by force.
That's powerful.
Yeah, and he has a quote for that, too.
Oh, does he?
He said, "A leader leads by example, not by force."
Mm.
Which I think perfectly captures this idea.
So true leadership comes from, like, inspiring others,
Yeah,
not demanding, like, obedience.
exactly. And it also ties back to that idea of knowing yourself.
Okay.
Like a good leader,
Yeah.
they understand their own strengths and weaknesses
Mm-hmm.
and uses those
Right.
to inspire their team.
So it's not about just being in charge.
Right.
It's about understanding your people and motivating them
Yeah,
to work towards, like, a common goal.
exactly.
Another important aspect of leadership, I think.
Yeah.
Balance.
Yes, Sun Tzu talked about that too.
He did?
He said a good leader needs to find the right balance
Okay.
between aggression
Mm-hmm.
and restraint.
So knowing when to push forward
Yeah.
and when to hold back.
Think about, have you ever been in a situation where you push too hard
Oh, yeah. All the time.
when, like, a more measured approach
Yeah.
would have been more effective?
I can be a little impulsive,
Yeah,
and I've also been in situations where I've, like, held back
right.
when I should have, like, stood my ground.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance.
It is.
To find. And Sun Tzu, he recognized that.
Okay.
He emphasized that leaders need to be both courageous and cautious,
Okay.
decisive and adaptable.
So not one or the other,
Right.
but finding that balance
Yeah.
for the situation.
Exactly. And that balance is key to effective leadership.
Yeah.
Whether you're leading a team at work or managing a family
Yeah.
or even just navigating your own personal goals.
This is reminding me that the art of war isn't just about,
Right.
winning battles or outsmarting opponents.
Yeah.
It's about self-awareness
Yeah.
and strategy
Mhm.
and finding balance in all aspects of life.
You got it. Sun Tzu's wisdom, it goes far beyond the battlefield.
Yeah.
It's about mastering the art of life itself.
Okay. It's amazing how these principles
Mm-hmm.
from the art of war written like centuries ago
Right.
still feel so relevant today.
I know it really speaks to like the timelessness of Sun Tzu's insights,
Yeah.
He tapped into something really fundamental about human nature, I think.
Right.
And the dynamics of strategy that goes beyond like any specific era or situation.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the art of war,
Okay.
what are some like key takeaways
Okay.
that you think our listeners should remember?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to remember that the art of war isn't just about warfare.
Right.
It's really a framework for strategic thinking that can be applied to, like,
Mhm.
any area of life where you're facing challenges or
Well-
striving to achieve goals.
Yeah, that's like a mental toolkit
Yeah.
for navigating complex situations,
Right.
whether it's like a business negotiation or a personal conflict
Hmm.
or even just making a big decision.
Yeah, exactly. And within that toolkit, there's some, like, essential tools
Okay.
that Sun Tzu highlights.
Mhm.
You know, we talked about the importance of preparation,
Right.
knowing yourself and your enemy,
Yeah.
being flexible and adaptable like water.
And we can't forget about winning without fighting,
Oh, right, of course.
achieving your goals through strategic maneuvering.
Absolutely. And all of these tools, they're all connected by this underlying principle of mindfulness.
Okay.
You know, as Sun Tzu encourages us to be precisely, and that is like a powerful mindset to cultivate,
It is.
no matter what challenges you're facing.
This has been such an insightful deep dive.
Good. I'm glad you think so.
I feel like I'm walking away with a whole new perspective on strategy
Yeah.
and how to like approach challenges in my own life.
That's great to hear. I hope our listener feels the same way. The
Yeah.
art of war, it's a treasure trove of wisdom.
It really is.
And I encourage everyone to explore it further
Yeah.
and see how these principles can apply to like their own unique circumstances.
As Sun Tzu would say, every battle is won before it is fought.
Right.
So go out there and conquer your week with strategic brilliance.
I love it.
Mm.